My name is Jen Liddy, and I'll be teaching tonight. Let's get started so that we can make sure you get everything that you need. Okay, you should be able to see a slide that says Small Business Resilience COVID-19. Do you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Great. And let's do it so you can see my face. So my name is Jen Liddy. I have been teaching all of these modules. There are 7. This is number 6 tonight. And at any time, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. I will answer every question at the end. Megan from WISE is also here. For those of you who are new to WISE, if you're watching this on a replay, WISE is a wonderful resource that we have in Syracuse, and it's a way that you can obtain help no matter where you are on the spectrum of growing your business. WISE is here for you. We have counselors, and I will introduce you to some of the counselors at the end of tonight. As we go through, tonight is all about learning so module 6 is all about engaging your customers with purpose and gratitude. So this is a really fun module. In the past, the modules have been very focused on a lot of information. And so for those of you who have shown up for these modules, I want to say bravo and thank you, because it's been so informational, and our team has done an amazing job of getting a lot of primary sources for you. Tonight we have more primary sources for you, but it's much more storytelling. You're going to hear more about the human side of how entrepreneurs have gone through COVID. So I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. As you know, this is a 6-module course that WISE has put together for us, and each module is focused on something different. This is a free training, and if you have access to one, you have access to all of them. And we've learned about everything from information about transmission, to how to help our employees, how to do customer service remotely, cyber security. We've really covered so much amazingness, including access to capital and your finances too. So tonight we're talking about the important resources and tips that you should consider as you're reflecting on the new normal of what your customers are going to want from you. And I have to say, like, we're using this word, the new normal, with kind of imagine we're putting air quotes around it, because nothing really feels normal right now. And actually, whatever phase we're in is just kind of a right now normal. We're just kind of surfing our way through this. So tonight is all about helping you think about different ways to approach your business, staying agile and flexible. Now, all through this teaching, you might spark something that I share with you might go, oh, that's an amazing idea. How can I riff on that? So feel free to take notes. Feel free to take screenshots. You're going to hear a lot of firsthand stories about how entrepreneurs, real life entrepreneurs in local CNY area, have kind of taken what's going on right now with COVID and made it an opportunity for themselves. We're also going to talk about the lessons learned over the past few months from our WISE women that we have spoken to at WISE. So everything tonight is all firsthand information, and let's get going thinking about this inspirational quote, which is actually from Socrates. I find it ironic that this ancient philosopher has this quote that's very relevant today. And he said, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new. And I think that one of the most important things we can do is embrace the idea that change is here to stay. And if we were fighting it before, we don't have the opportunity or the chance to fight it anymore. So now we must change as a society and as entrepreneurs to combat life during this virus. So our job is to figure out how our business interactions will be considering the mandated social distancing and all of the rules that we have to play by. Additionally, we have to think about our customer interactions and what our customers need now in this quote unquote new normal. So the sooner that we learn to adapt, the more successful outcomes we can expect. Here's what we're going to focus on today. We're going to start talking about the lessons learned from the WISE women that we spoke to, so that you understand everything that we have taught you is based on what people told us they needed and wanted. We're going to talk about how to refocus your business on your customer now that things look a little bit different, how to create value for your customer, and how to personalize marketing based on what's happening in your business right now. We're going to move on to talking about recognizing that customer experience pays off, and we'll explain what that means. We'll talk about taking the time to review and rebuild your strategy. And then we'll end with talking about support for your customers in your community and showing gratitude and appreciation and caring and how that actually works for your business. So let's get moving. In Objective 1, we are going to talk about the lessons that we heard from the wise women we spoke to in June of 2020 as New York was opening up. Wise spent time interviewing local women business owners and learning what they needed. And so I want you to take a look at the next 2 slides. This one, this is what we heard, and I wonder what resonates the most with you. Wise women told us that they were rethinking how to do a whole bunch of things, including how to educate clients to prepare them for what's next, how to empathize and listen to angry or upset clients, creating coping skills to, and also having a work-life balance because it can be so draining to do that, how to ask for feedback and ideas from their customers and their employee teams, how to communicate supply chain delays to the customer, because we all know how frustrating it is that everything takes so long right now. Things that we want, we can't have at the snap of our fingers anymore. Getting protective gear has been challenging. That was another challenge that some people told us they were struggling with. Also finding vendors to get supplies in a timely manner. And in order to not compromise quality, how do you get what you need so that your customers get what they've always expected from you? And getting the right permits to do the things that you need to do. Additionally, they told us they had to work with their customers to how to convey emotions about the things that are happening. Having a personal relationship with somebody via Zoom or phone is very different than having a hard conversation in person. Other people were struggling to transmit voicemail to email to stay connected with their customers and how to do that. Others were struggling with the fact that many orders were delayed and they would have to communicate with their customers, and how to provide a virtual presence for their business in addition to handling uncooperative customers. For example, those customers who just don't want to wear a mask in your ice cream store, right? So what resonates here with you? What have you been struggling with? And if you want to put it in the chat box, I'd love to hear. Is there anything that you have been struggling with as a business owner because of COVID, and how has your customer experience been for you? So as we move on to Objective 2, we're taking everything we learned from the wise women and we're funneling it into tonight's training to talk about how to refocus on the customer's new needs. Our customers are needing different new things from us, and people are changing what they expect. And it's really interesting how some entrepreneurs are responding to the need. In Florida, there is a store that opened up. It's a pop-up store that offers on-demand supplies for anything in demand that has to do with the pandemic. It's kind of a pop-up shop, a one-stop shop for anything that's COVID related. So the marketplace is our job as entrepreneurs to be vigilant of what the new need is and how we can serve the need. Just making sure that you can hear me. Can you guys still hear me? Because I just got a pop-up that said, my internet is unstable. So I just want to make sure everybody can still hear me. Can you just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me in the chat? Oh, good, thank you. Sorry about that, thank you. So let's look at how some local business owners have done something similar to meet the needs of a new marketplace. So meet Isaac Budman and his partner, Stephanie Keefe. In April, when masks were in big demand and short in supply, I'm sure you remember that, they turned their 3D printers into mask makers. boom, like that. They just knew there was a need. They got creative because that's what entrepreneurs do, right? Like they are creative problem solvers. And so they decided to meet the need and be part of the solution. So they shared their mask making template with the world. They shared their printers at another venue, and they connected with other businesses to be able to meet the needs more quickly. So as we go through tonight, besides saying like, that's so cool, or like thinking about these creative people wistfully, I'd love for you to start to think, how can I take what I have, my special powers, the things that I'm really great at, and start to meet the needs of my clients as they're presented right now. So the other cool thing about their story is they didn't do it on their own. They reached out for help. They told people about it. They expanded their community, and everybody kind of got on board for this. If you'd like to read about the story, there is a downloadable, you can get the downloadable template actually right there, because you will get the PDF version of this training, but you can also read about the story, which came from Syracuse.com. So we think this is a great story to kick off tonight locally. Another way that people are meeting the needs of the new marketplace, this is Kayla Anderson. She's the owner of an online clothing boutique called In the Ivy. It had just opened up in November. We heard a lot of these stories, people who had just opened up in the fall of 2019. And she had been selling a brand of headbands in her online store prior to the coronavirus outbreak. And then what she found was people were complaining about the masks irritating their ears. And so the founder who made these headbands, she actually thought, well, what if I put buttons on the headbands and then the masks go around the buttons instead of the ears? And so the demand for this was so great that the owner of the shop, the online shop, collaborated with the maker of these headbands, and she started putting the buttons on for free, kind of as a service to, to kind of aid the people who were buying her headbands. And so she said, these are $16 headbands, and then she adds the buttons for free if you want them. And she said, I'm just a small business. I just started and I don't have the funds to donate all these headbands, but I'm happy to donate at least the buttons and my labor to put them on. And so customers can also purchase headbands to donate to healthcare workers. And the owner has already received 30 donations to distribute to local Syracuse area hospitals. So this is another great example of how meeting the need, like in the healthcare industry, people were really struggling. And so two entrepreneurs came together to solve the problem. So we love these kinds of stories. So that's talking about the marketplace. Now we want to talk about creating value for a new normal client. Remember, I'm putting air quotes around new normal because it's constantly shifting, right? But what we have noticed is that customers have experienced a once in a lifetime event, and it's reshaping their perceptions, it's reshaping their beliefs, it's reshaping how they go out into the world every day. And so this is going to have an effect on the marketplace for years to come. And the most successful entrepreneurs are thinking long term. They're thinking about how this is changing our marketplace, not just today, not just this month, but for maybe years to come, right? So we have to understand these changes as entrepreneurs and create that, recognize that there's a new normal that we have to respond to. So to assume that our audience members and our customers will be the same that they were before is a mistake. Nobody and nothing will be the same as it ever was. So we have to return to conducting business with a new framework in place for ourselves so that we can be successful. So let's talk about how to create value for your new normal customer. So I want you to think about, how are your customer personas changing right now? What is it that your customers need or want or are experiencing that they had never dealt with before? And if you want to put that in the chat, I would love to hear what you have to say about that. And then your job, after you understand how your customer personas are changing, is to understand how you as a company can start to create value for them. And that's what we saw with the headbands, and that's what we saw with the face masks. It's about responding rather than reacting. So let me see if there's any comments up in the chat. Will you let me do that, Zoom? Yep. Okay, right. Yes, I do know that. Thank you. Perfect. So let's talk about what you can do. You can start by asking yourself 2 questions. So before you try to anticipate and meet the needs and demands, you must think about these two questions. The first one is your current new normal customer compatible with your company's values? So if your company is solidly and firmly here, but your new customers are kind of over here with different values, you really have to decide, do I want to change my values to meet my customer, or do I want to go after new customers? It's just something you have to decide as an entrepreneur. But this training is all about making you aware that things are shifting, and it's your job to kind of decide how you want to approach that. And then the second question is, who is your current customer and your future customer? Who is your ideal client? Because I bet right now you know, and you probably know a lot about that client, but it might be time to go back and do some customer discovery to make sure you really understand the persona of your new normal client. So that is something that you might want to spend some time doing. The thing about the new normal customer for you is, it's very important when you're assessing your new strategy for how you're responding to the COVID life, you have to consider what your customers want. So just because a new normal customer exists, you can't assume that the old way of doing things is going to meet their needs. So let's talk about your new normal customer has the following traits. New normal customers after COVID, we can't even say we're after COVID, right? We're kind of mid-COVID. They are more self-aware and they are emotionally engaged. And there's actually been a change in our customers' mindset. Their needs are particularly related to their health and the health of their friends and family, and their emotional and mental well-being. And that wasn't necessarily the case before. It wasn't as heightened as it is now. The second thing that you want to consider about your new customer is they unite and connect socially, often through acts of generosity and gratitude. And so even though we have to social distance and we can't hug people anymore and handshakes feel awkward now, we have also experienced an explosion in acts of generosity and gratitude. So it's really showing how people can unite and come together. We've already seen some examples of how some companies have done that. And so this is something that you want to consider as you think about your new client. How can you incorporate this information into what your next offer might be? Your new normal customer also finds comfort in trusted and known brands during times of tumult like we are in. And of course, this is especially important now where we don't know who to trust or what to trust, and many of their beliefs have been disrupted and upended. Your new normal client acknowledges that online is a legitimate source and a legitimate solution for them. Now, remember, in the beginning, nobody really wanted to do fitness online, right? Like nobody wanted to do yoga online. It wasn't for everybody. But now that is a new normal for people. And so remember that whatever it is that you're offering, an online option is viable and it's realistic now in terms of what your client and your customers are thinking. Your new normal client has a greater sense of independence as an online shopper. Now, they've basically shown themselves that they can do everything themselves, and they may opt to minimize some of their in-person retail experiences of the past. And so if you are an in-person retailer, you want to understand that online shopping is something that people are really into because it just makes it easier and safer. Your new client has a higher sense of self-hygiene and expectations of services related to self-care and hygiene. Now, this is a really cool example. I didn't know this was happening, but the MTA to clean and disinfect. That level of cleanliness and hygiene was never expected before. But now that this is what's being done, this is the new norm, and that's what people are going to expect. People are going to expect a higher level of disinfecting and hygiene, sorry. And then number 7 is your new client, your new customer cherishes the experience of enjoying life in small bites, because that's all we've got right now, right? So they have the nucleus of their family and friends, and because living large has been replaced with kind of living close to home, living with your living family, they're enjoying the small bites of life. And it is likely that some customers will try to overcompensate with like eventually big trips or indulgent activities. The majority will probably continue to cherish small bites that they experienced during COVID-19 and retain them for a while. So given that these are the This is the persona of the new normal customer. How will your business have to respond to this? I just want you to think about that for a moment. What does this mean for your offers, your the experience you want to create for people? How does it mean that, where does it mean for you in terms of where your business will go? You may want to take a picture of this slide because it's really important to think about where your clients are coming from so that you don't waste time pivoting in a way that won't meet the new need. So the new normal customer is vulnerable, cautious, self-sustaining, health-minded, and trust-rebuilding. They are presenting a challenge to any brand trying to determine how to deliver value to this customer. And I want you to know, I know that this might feel frustrating, especially if you've worked hard to build your brand up, but you're going to see examples tonight of local entrepreneurs who have done just this. They have twisted, pivoted, shifted, moved to meet the new needs. So let's talk about what some of those things that you need to consider are. So when you are considering your shift, there's 4 things to consider. Number 1 is alignment. How does your current value proposition, your USP, your unique selling points, and your products align with this new normal customer? So this is the very first thing that you want to figure out. How do you align with the new customer's needs, the marketplace? Number 2 is experience. What should our products create for this new normal customer? In other words, what do they need? And here we've got some examples, and it includes stuff you may not have thought about before. The new normal client wants to be empowered, wants to have a healthy mindset, wants to be socially connected, wants to be safe. How do you create an experience that does that for your clients? Innovation is the third thing that you want to consider when becoming more agile in your marketplace. So what innovations should you focus on and test that best align with your new normal customer? Remember that you might not get it right straight out of the gate, but if you don't test, you will never know. And then the fourth is segmentation. Who should we focus on? Which new normal client do we want to serve? And how can we provide them the best value and gain their loyalty for that? So again, you might want to take a picture of this slide and think about the 4 things that you need to do while before you shift your business strategy. We want to talk here a little bit about what customers are actually what's actually going on in your customer's mind. So here on the left is what's going on in their mindset. And you know this already because you talk to people. You see that they feel anxious about a loss of control in their lives. They are depressed. They have become more self-care minded, and what self-care means has probably shifted for them too. They feel like there's an increased vulnerability health-wise, financially. Everything feels more vulnerable to them right now. Everything feels a little more tenuous right now. They are struggling to reestablish trust because there don't seem to be rules. We don't know what the rules are. We don't know which rules to follow. It's very hard to know who to trust and what to trust, what information is coming at us that's true. They are working to master self-sustainment because they see how much the world kind of hit them when COVID hit, and they want to be more self-sustaining. And then they want to leverage online services and enjoy life in small bite-sized actions, which we already talked about. So on the right hand here, you can see the kinds of features and services that you can offer to people to help them overcome these mindset issues that they're struggling with. And that includes, what can you provide to people to help them feel a greater sense of control, to create hope, to demonstrate a commitment to health, and that is physical health and mental health, of course. How can you deliver empathy and compassion, which is so important right now when everybody feels just like at the end, you know, they're so tightly wound. Develop trust through long-term thinking. You know, how can you build a relationship over time with your clients? And how can you empower people to own and lead their own journey? And then additionally, how can you help your customers with a complemented online access and availability to whatever your service or product is, and provide experiences in small quantities? So this is what we're going to be talking about for the rest of the evening, are examples of how local entrepreneurs have done exactly this. One last thing we want to tell you, we keep hearing lessons. If there's one lesson we can all take from COVID-19 and its impact on the world, is that the future belongs to those who can adapt the fastest. And you've probably seen this in your own life, the people who are holding on to the old way that they wish it was the way that it was before, and they're kind of getting left behind because the successful people are being flexible and adaptable. So change resilience is the new core competence of organizations, and it's defined as the speed and scope of change that an organization can absorb and move forward. The faster we can adapt, the greater the chance is that we'll maximize opportunities and reach a new finish line successfully. And so that's from Lior Arusi. She's the founder and former CEO of Strativity Group. So we want you to think about how you can adapt fast and build resilience. And that's what this entire 7-module course has been about. As we move into Objective 4, we're going to talk about the importance of online marketing, especially during this pandemic where social distancing and remote work is becoming the norm. So we're going to start by sharing our featured CNY business for this event, and then we'll guide you to some other resources for yourself. So let's talk first about Wolf's Patio Pizza in Liverpool. And I know we have the owner here on the call tonight. So hi, Linda. We're so excited to feature you here. Linda Dwyer owns Wolf's Patio Pizza, and she's innovating her services to meet a new need. Given that people are homebound and can no longer enjoy the traditional restaurant experience, she realized that people may be tired of delivery services and takeouts. And so she's using the concept of neighborhood parties where neighbors can keep socially distant. What happens is she pulls her trailer up into a customer's driveway and she makes this personalized social experience for people, and they are able to stay socially distanced. How does she gain new business? Well, it's by referrals of the people who come to the neighborhood, and then they tell people, and then they share that on Facebook and Instagram and all their socials. And then it's a combination of word of mouth and socials, right? So her strategy is that she has reduced costs because she has lower overhead for larger events. She provides friendly, personalized service. Remember how important we talked about being friendly and being warm and helping people feel like they're socialized. And she gets exposure from each different neighborhood and surrounding neighborhoods that she goes to, and it actually equals more revenue for her. The thing I want you to remember is this is in alignment with her customers' needs. That's the biggest thing, right? Like, this is what people want because they're homebound, yet they can kind of still be together in somebody's driveway in the neighborhood and get fresh, delicious food delivered right to their door. And Linda told us that there are so many more opportunities due to COVID-19 that you will find new ways. And I love her optimism there. She says her truck is more lucrative, cutting costs due to less payroll expenses needed for larger events, and she gets more exposure to various neighborhoods. It's changed the way we do business, and we hope we can sustain it every summer. So yeah, it's a great idea, right? Oh, yay, I'm glad that you're here, Linda. Great. So we thought this was a really fun solution, and it meets the client's need. This is a new client, right? Meet Kathy Edwan. She had a newly launched business. Like we're going to hear this story a lot tonight, a newly launched business, and then COVID hit. Because of COVID, she wasn't able to continue to build relationships. So Kathy's plan was she creates Jordanian food. And she says it's cooked with love and poured with passion. And she was new on the market, and her plan was to increase her exposure and build client base by bringing people into her beautiful restaurant and building relationships with people by going to them at their tables, meeting customers, talking about the Jordanian food and her background and the beautiful decor in her restaurant. But of course, like, people don't go to restaurants and do that right now. The other thing that she was worried about was the potential shortage of imported spices because of supply chain disruptions. We referenced that too earlier. So her strategy changed to increase exposure through her online marketing, and she used Instagram and Facebook to do that. So she started just telling her friends and her family that she would cater like a family style dinner for a takeout, and she began offering these samplers at a lower cost. And this offer of a different taste experience, like it wasn't the same old thing, right? This was something new and something different and something exciting with specialty signature spices. This really differentiated her in the market. And then that's how she started to just kind of like boop, 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 with her restaurant. She didn't have the restaurant, but she still had the takeout service, right? So we have to get creative in what we can offer, and then we have to tell people about it. And she also overcame her problem. She was very prescient in this, in that she saw ahead that this supply chain issue was going to be a problem for her spices. So very early on, she addressed that problem, and she was able to identify multiple supply chains to secure her spices, which are an important ingredient for her particular kind of food she shares. So this is another great example of a local woman who's just started and had to pivot and had to use marketing to get her message out. This is a great story too. This is the Lucky Dogs pet store in Skaneateles. And this store had been opened by Amy Sheik in 2018. And Amy had built up a great business. Her local clients loved her. She had a store, she sells food, she sells goods, but she also offers services like dog walking, for example. And so when COVID hit, her business was actually deemed an essential business because it sold food. And so she had to decide, do I keep the doors open? Like, what do I do? And so she did keep them open, and she used her resources and flexibility to serve her clients as they needed. Now, frankly, because everybody was home, the need for pet care and walking services diminished. And she was forced to lay off her dog walkers. But because of her, I'm going to just move to the next slide here, because of her ingenuity, what she did was she used Facebook, and she kept the store hours open. And so she would go in and just use Facebook Lives and kind of like do virtual shopping with people who were following her on Facebook. And this was a way that people could still buy from her. They could do curbside pickup. And so she took advantage of this technology to expand her service offerings by taking, like a window or curbside or virtual or phone orders and providing what her clients needed. So she did Facebook Lives, I did mention that, but she also did FaceTime personal shopping. So people love to buy stuff for their dogs, right? And they were home with their dogs, so they wanted to buy stuff for their dogs. And so she would, like, somebody could call her on FaceTime, and then she would take them through the store and get them the stuff that they wanted. It was kind of like it was like something to do, right? And then she also came up with problem solver packages, she called them, for those working remotely. And she was able to give, for those people who had, like the people who needed to go to work, she was able to provide little treat boxes. These were bundles filled with treats and chews for the dogs who were at home while the healthcare worker, for example, was working. So this is another example of how to market and pivot and tell people about it all at the same time. Now, in our next example, let me just finish up with the Lucky Dog store. So she was able to increase her visibility on social media in the ways that I was telling you about. And then she actually was able to add new products to appeal to emotional and mental stress relievers for those problem solver packages, for people who really just like needed to take care of their dogs, but they felt like they were not available as much to their dogs because they were working. So this next example is a resource for you. This is a 1-hour webinar. This is given by SCORE, and it's free for you, and it's full of great information to help you learn how people will find you online. So if you're new to digital marketing and you know that it's something important, but you really haven't dived in, I would start here with this training. It's totally free, and SCORE gives really high quality trainings, not a lot of fluff. So it teaches you how people find you online, how to set yourself up for success, how to encourage new and repeat business, and then resources and action plans for your COVID marketing strategy. Because remember, it's not normal. Nothing's normal right now. And then this is a little snippet from the training for you that tells you like the five things that you could do to help get you started right away. And if you're looking at any of these 5 things and you're just like, oh, I haven't really done that yet, you know, my website's pretty archaic and it doesn't even represent who I am, like, you really want to get started using your time to get yourself ready for digital marketing. Let's move on to objective 5, which is all about recognizing that customer experience pays off. What do I mean by that? So focusing on the customer experience, the experience that you provide for your customers in their journey from start when they first meet you all the way through working with you, is a very winning strategy in a time like this. Results have showed, and this is a graph that you can see, results have showed that 3 times shareholder returns in business were from early leaders in customer experience versus those who come in later. So if you've been sitting in your business and you're thinking, I'll just wait till this is all over, that's not quite what's going to get you where you want to go. You want to think, how can I be agile? How can I jump back in with both my feet? How can I serve my people? Good customer experiences can create substantial value. This is what this illustration shows. And often the best ways to improve customer experience and efficiency in delivering your product or service are to increase digital self-service and to make smarter operational trade-offs. That means, what do you need to get rid of? What do you need to amp up? What do you need to focus on? What do you need to let go of? And this is all grounded in what matters most to your customers. So it's very important right now. If you walk away with nothing else, just realize it's really important right now that you see that the number one thing is, what do my people need? And how can I give it to them? Many entrepreneurs make the mistake of doing the opposite. I think the industry needs this, and then they go right ahead without talking to their people. So a good example of this is the banking industry, where they helped their customers migrate onto digital services, which increased accessibility and timely service. Plus, it reduced the cost of operations for the banking industry. So you really want to focus on your customer needs. So during a crisis, customers' interaction with a company can trigger an immediate and lingering effect of their loyalty and services. And I bet you've already experienced this in your own real life. Perhaps there's somebody that you've been doing service with for a long time, maybe your cable company or your cell phone company or your doctor or your favorite restaurant, and they're not responding, they're not responsive, and you're frustrated or you don't like the way they've been acting, and you're saying, like, no more, I'm not going to work with them anymore because I don't like the way. And so it really, like, your experience as a customer affects your loyalty and trust moving forward. So what we want you to think about are actions that you can think about immediately to help address customer service now and prepare for the future. So the number one thing is to focus on care and concern. Have you reached out to your customers? How are you showing that you are supporting them, that you are still here? Have you sent an email to your list? Have you reached out to your customers and just checked in? Don't have to sell anything. Don't have to send anything that says buy here now, but just checking in, it makes a big difference. The second thing is to meet your customers where they are. And this could be about innovating digital models to help customers weather a crisis, but it could also include, like, offering delivery options that weren't there before, or contactless operations. But the other thing is, meet your customers where they are emotionally too, because if you're in a place where wearing masks is not required and you come in not wearing a mask, but your customers feel anxious because you're not wearing a mask, that is another way of meeting your customers where they are. If you have customers who are experiencing a certain mental or emotional problem and you need to meet them there, that's also something to consider. Reimagine the post-COVID-19 world. And this might be challenging for you, but if you can get out of your own head and start to talk about it with a colleague or a friend or somebody else creative, you really can start to think about how you can pivot, swivel, shift, and migrate your customers where you think the world is going, and then build agile capacities for fluid times. This is where you want to use your marketing, tapping social media to read customer responses, like getting immediate feedback for people, talking to people on the phone, learning what those people are. So if you are the president of a bank, for example, and you're never on the phone with your customers, but you want to talk to the people who are on the phone with your customers. So get somebody to tell you what your customers are saying. And maybe if you're a solo entrepreneur, that's you, but maybe if you're a manager, that's somebody who's working on the front lines. So consider how you can adapt to meet your customers' needs. Additionally, we want to give you this example. If you live in Syracuse, New York, you've probably heard of Dinosaur Barbecue. It's a staple business here in Syracuse. It's known for the experience that it creates. It's not just great food, great barbecue. It's all about the ambiance and the music and the feel and the attitude of everybody in there. And so this is a place where creating a customer experience is very important. So when somebody recently went into Dinosaur and it was empty, they said it was as close to a surreal Twilight Zone experience as you can get in the Syracuse dining scene. It was nearly empty on a Friday night. And if you've ever tried to get into Dinosaur on a Friday night, you know that that is a bizarre statement. But what remained when this person went in to get their meal as takeout on a Friday night was the familiarity, right? The tomato-based barbecue sauce, the blend of smoked woods permeating the bites of their sampler, like just the feel of it. And so this can evoke an experience for clients and customers, even in the new normal. So they invited people to curbside for pickup, and it like reminded people of experiences that they had had before. And so these are the kinds of things that you want to think about. How can you create a customer experience? Next, we want to talk about orangehousing.com. Donna Glassberg is the owner of orangehousing.com. Now, this business has been in Central New York for 25 years. It's a woman-owned business. And what she does is she provides online access to Central New York properties for rent and for sale. Now, she's been using the internet since 1997. She's an early adopter. And Donna realized that she needed to pay attention to what was happening with the COVID-19 new norm customer who cannot go out and view the property in person. And so her biggest challenge was both, because she has two ideal clients, right? She has the renter and she has the lister. And how could she safely show the apartments so that both parties could be satisfied? So her strategy was to listen to her customers. And frankly, she says, our site just used to be a compact list of rentals, and it only showed the pictures when you clicked on a listing, and then it would open up the picture. But she said, we had that since 1997, and she realized that now was the time to be a little more creative about that. And so what she did was she heard what her audience wanted, and what they wanted was to see more pictures. If I can't be there in person and I can't go see it in person, and I don't want to have to click on every single one of these listings, I want to see. And so her company invested in a 360-degree camera, and they are looking to different ways to post the pictures so that her renters, her potential renters, can view the thing in 360 in a video format. She also added in more hours for customer service, because she realized that so many places she's calling, it drives her bonkers because the amount of time you have to wait on the phone is taking far too long. And she says, I find that extremely irritating. And I agree with her. I feel the same way. And she said, this far into the pandemic, these large companies should be able to service their customers faster. So I make it a point to get back to customers as quickly as possible. And I know this is true because I've been in conversations with Donna, and she's immediately responsive. And so we don't keep customers hanging on the phone lines for 30 minutes or more like some businesses are still doing. We don't blame poor service on COVID. And I think that is a really wonderful, important thing to remember. And so again, it's listening to what people wanted. They wanted to see more pictures. They wanted to see more visuals. They want more quick responses. And so she gives it to them. Our next example is the 443 Social Club and Lounge on Burnett Ave in Syracuse. And if you haven't been to this place, it is an experience when you're there. It's a live music venue, and Julie Leone is the owner. And Julie was planning to reopen in July. And of course, things keep changing because the rules keep changing. Now, if you go to 443, if you went to 443 in the old times, you would go and there's these amazing 70s vibe. The furniture, the decor, it was all really authentic 1970s feel, and it was loungy and it was comfortable. It was like your living room. But the model of lounging and listening room experiences for live music had to change, just given everything that has happened with COVID-19. So what did she do? She started by removing a lot of the lounge area. She took out any seating at the bar, because she was really, but she still was worried about how would people listen? What would this different experience be? And so what she really heard from people was they want to come, but they want to feel safe. So she got really focused on showing her guests that that they are making a clean, safe place for people to come and listen to music. And she takes social distancing very, very seriously. And among other ideas, they are replacing their upholstered 70s furniture, their authentic 70s furniture, with easy to sanitize chairs and tables, which will be spread out so that they can practice social distancing. And additionally, I love this point the most. She said, servers will wear face shields rather than masks so that you can see them smiling. And again, I think it's such an important thing because when our faces are covered up, it's really hard to tell if somebody's smiling. And so we have to do this exaggerated facial stuff and it's exhausting. And this is a way to solve that problem for her employees and for her guests. So these are great examples of how people listened to the new clients that they have and the new needs that their clients had. Let's talk about objective 6, which is all about it's time to rebuild and review strategies. This is a really cool story. I want you to meet Courtney Horrigan. So Courtney worked at a restaurant in Marcellus for 18 years. No, since she was 18, sorry, for 11 years since she was 18. And the restaurant was owned by Frank Mincola. And he decided during this whole COVID thing that he was just ready to retire, sell the business and move into retirement. So Courtney, she had been, like I said, she had been working at the restaurant since she was 18. She saw her chance to become a business owner, but she had no idea how to proceed with a purchase of a restaurant. So she reached out to the Onondaga County SBDC, that's the Small Business Development Center. And her strategy was to take her 11 years of working in the business, knowing the customers, knowing everything about service, knowing everything about the ins and outs of the restaurant business from watching Frank. And at the height of the COVID pandemic on April 15th, 2020, she and her husband closed on this business. But it was because of SCORE that she was able to get everything done and that she got the loan. And she said, in my eyes, it was the perfect opportunity to watch my dreams fall into place. We're taking time to get remodeling done. So obviously she's not open yet. And we're updating everything and we are preparing reopening under the new social distancing protocols. So this is an example of somebody who saw an opportunity, got the help, and is revamping how it's going to look to meet the new needs of her new customers. Now, by purchasing this restaurant, Courtney and her husband have been able to save the jobs of 11 employees who otherwise would have been put out of work. And they also plan to add 2 more positions once Moondance Restaurant and Tavern fully reopens. So be looking for that if you live in the Syracuse area, looking for that to reopen. It's a great story. Another example of agility is Sky Armory, which is owned by Nicole Simolis. So Sky Armory is a $2+ million company that grew out of a small company called the Events Company. Sky Armory focuses on weddings, corporate events, galas, bashes. Like she does a beautiful job with decor. She does a beautiful job with entertainment. An owner, as I said, this is Nicole Simolis's place. Nicole is an entrepreneur and she's constantly thinking creatively. And so she has 3 companies. She has the Events Company, which helps people create events. She has Sky Armory, which is a venue. And she also, in the past year, had opened Epicuse, which is a grocery store in the heart of downtown. Now, obviously, the big challenge for Nicole is that weddings were canceled, events were canceled, her place was shut down. Basically, Sky Armory is on pause due to social distancing. So what she did was she leveraged her other companies, the Event Company and Epicuse, to host online Zoom sessions. So she had parties and she presented virtual wine and cheese pairing parties. She had parties, so like she would host these parties and then people could come and get the wine and cheese from her business downtown, where of course she would deliver them to their car curbside. And she found that people just love to connect. And so she also creates a live presentation explaining the pairings, and she includes a game that she calls Food Pairs with Blank for guests to guess what wine pairing goes best with the food. And this is just so creative, right? And so she looked at the strategy of her 5-year-old business, which was the core business of her events, and she just had to really get creative. But creativity is at the core of who Nicole is, because she's always looking at her business with a critical eye, thinking, how can I change? What needs to grow? What needs to come in? How can I redecorate? What's the new trends? And so that is a lesson that we can all learn, because she's not only listening to her audience and her clientele, but she's also thinking about what's coming next. So we really appreciate Nicole as being part of our Syracuse landscape of entrepreneurs, because she's such a model of creativity. So let's move into objective 7, which is to support your customers' local community. We're going to look at the ways that businesses locally and globally are continuing to reach out to customers and provide them with community and service. Because remember, one of the values of our new clients is that they are looking for service and giving back. They want to see how we're doing that. And so let's share some examples of how these businesses are continuing to reach out to their customers and provide an experience for people while they're doing that. Okay, now Marriott is obviously an international conglomerate, but even international global companies are giving back to local businesses in their customers' localities. For example, I don't know if you knew this, but your travel and accommodation reward points can be used to redeem takeout food. And I thought this was really amazing, because this global company is helping local businesses by letting them cash in their reward points, which are just sitting there, right? Like they're sitting there in your account, and who knows when we're going to be able to use them again. So that's a great example of giving back. And then additionally, the Landmark Theater in Syracuse, I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's beautiful and opulent and historic. And this theater is a fixture in Syracuse, and the theater is being rehabbed. And what they've done is come up with several ways to help their customers remain involved, both because the theater is closed and because it's also going to go through a renovation. So they've given people an opportunity to help, even though the theater is dark. And so I want you to take a look at the ways that they have offered ways for their audience to participate in giving back. You know, asking for donations, saying you can buy your next year's membership or subscription now, and we'll give you a little discount on it, so they get the money up front, right? And then of course there's all these other fun things. You can get a dedicated seat in our new auditorium. You can buy one of the old seats before it's taken away. You can make your mark on the marquee before construction is completed. Like there's all of these ways that they're trying to create an experience, give back to the community, and also keep their business moving forward. So I wanted to ask you, is adding an element of giving back in alignment with your business? And you may want to consider is asking for direct support in alignment with your business. Those are things that you can consider in this time. Let's move on to our last objective, which is that showing gratitude and appreciation and care in a time of crisis, and how that plays in. There's this Maya Angelou quote that people will remember. They won't remember like you know, what you wore or what you did. They will remember how you made them feel. And that's what we're talking about here in this last section. Your people, your clients, your customers, your audience members, they will remember how you made them feel. And so many businesses have reached out to show appreciation and gratitude and care during this time of crisis. They've shown up in service. We've given you a lot of examples of that tonight. Restaurants have given meals away to healthcare workers, and actually Crocs gave away free Crocs to doctors and nurses. So let's look at 2 examples from Central New York of how they've done this, and you may want to consider doing this in your business. So welcome to Masks of Hope. This is a great story of a family giving back. Now, on March 20th, this family made a decision to cancel a surprise birthday party for their mom, but they saw a silver lining to fulfill mom's birthday wish. So mom is a public health field representative. She's heavily involved in COVID-related work, and her motto is do something good when things are bad. And so this family started a startup called Masks of Hope. And so this is a Latino family-owned startup who donates masks to essential healthcare workers and others. Now, the whole family is involved. Their daughter, who's a physician assistant student, is very creative, and so is the dad. And the older daughter, so they're the dad and the daughter are kind of the creative masterminds behind this whole thing. The older daughter keeps a spreadsheet and she manages orders. And they even have like a brother and a boyfriend and everybody involved in this family-owned business. And it got not only the family involved, but you can see that they got their church involved, they got the community involved, they got out-of-state outreach involved. They have they've put out so many blessings and goodwill and hope into the community that this is an example of how giving back can really fill people up. Our next example is Wonder Bar in Armory Square. Now, Wonder Bar is a radically inclusive space that celebrates LGBTQ plus people, and it supports the development and sustainability of local artists. So it's a really inclusive space. Now, they advocate for the intersectionality of all people, and they encourage everyone, no matter their sexual orientation or gender identity, to come and connect and strengthen the cultural identity of Syracuse. So their whole mission is very inter-based, right? But they had to close because they had to lay off their staff, and they had to close down because of COVID-19. So what they did was, well, first of all, they promised that they would rehire everyone the minute that they could, but they also donated the last of their perishable goods before the pause hit. They set up a GoFundMe campaign for their staff, and they sent a total of $2,000 to their employees in Wegmans gift cards over 4 weeks to bridge the gap until employment benefits kicked in. And then they began a campaign to add support for the LGBTQ community. And they started a queer library in their space with 80 donated books. And they Instagram sex education video series developed with sponsorship from a local hospital. So they have really done a lot in terms of service for their community. And last, again, we're going to talk about Donna Glassberg, who you might remember from the orangehousing.com. This is a marketing concept that any Syracuse business or nonprofit can join. So you might want to consider this for yourself. So the concept was to create an intention of raising Google search rankings for everyone in the Team Syracuse network. And so part of the Google search algorithm factors in the total number of authentic links to your website that are available on other sites. So using this info to our advantage as entrepreneurs is free and easy way to improve each of our rankings within Google. So it's a way to all come together and create synergy to work better for everybody. And so all a business has to do is post this insignia at the footer of its website and make it linkable to www.orangehousing.com. And so if you wanted to do that, they will list your website link for free in their Team Syracuse directory. So this is another great example of giving back and working together. So the key takeaways are, I want you to just really remember, people will remember how you made them feel during this really tumultuous time. And we need, as entrepreneurs, to focus on customer care and gratitude and appreciation. So we have a lot to do, right? Like we have to think about our strategy, and we have to think about all of the pieces and parts to running our business every day. And we also have to think about our customers. And an innovative marketing strategy is vital during this time. If you haven't spent time doing that, you're going to want to think about that using some of the tools we gave you today. Remembering all the time that a new normal customer persona is emerging constantly. And so we would like to thank these CNY businesses and Syracuse.com journalists who agreed to share their story in this module. So all of these stories are real stories that our research team found. And so we want to thank everybody who was willing to be a participant. And if you, again, are looking for additional resources, as always, we provide ways to go deeper into the content. You can have these clickable links in the PDF that you'll receive because you signed up for this training. And we covered a lot again tonight. You heard a lot of different stories. And what my hope for you is that something sparked in you and encouraged you to go talk to your clients and get your ears in, listening to what they have to say, and think about how you can be more creative in meeting their needs in a way that's in alignment with you. Now, if you are struggling with anything that we teach here, that's why making an appointment at WISE is the next best step for you. I want you to meet your business counselors. Here we have on the left, Barb Stone, in the middle, Cerisa Richardson, and on the right, Lacey Roy Cicerillo. These are your business counselors, and counseling is offered free because WISE is supported through the SBA and a grant through Syracuse University's Whitman School. These women are here to help get you where you want to go, move you into the next phase of your business, because the stuff that we're talking about can be hard. So if you're looking for somebody to sit with you, please reach out. You can call WISE at 443-8643, and you can also email them at wisecenter@syr.edu. I would like to give thanks to our instructional designer, Manal El-Tighi. Manal is the person who puts these trainings together, and she does tireless research with her team to make sure that all of the information is correct and it makes sense and it's relatable to you and that it's useful to you. So thank you, Manal, for your work. And I want to say congratulations, because you made it through another module. Module 6 has been all about focusing on the new customer, in your new customer persona in the new norm. Now, if you have any questions, you can always email WISE and they're there for you. I'm going to take any questions that there are, and let me check the chat. Okay. I'm looking for questions. So this will, yes. So Taneha, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name right. Is it Taneha, Tani, like EE in the middle, or Tane? So if you could let me know, because I always love seeing you here. I just want to make sure I get your name right. Yes, lots covered and much inspiration given. Woohoo, that's the goal. Love each story. Jen is sharing a lot of detail. Yeah, Taneya, thank you. Oh my God, you must have been rolling your eyes at me for saying it wrong every single time. Taneya, thank you. Yes, good for changing mindset. I love all these comments in the comments. Thanks. So if you guys want to reach out to SCORE, Megan has put the links here, syracuse.score.org. SCORE is a great option for you guys also, and so is the Onondaga SBDC.org. I know everybody is so creative, isn't it? But you guys can be creative too. You don't, but actually sometimes the hardest thing about being creative is that we work in this silo, especially if we're solopreneurs, and especially if the people that we're around every day aren't entrepreneurs, or they're like, oh my God, is she ever gonna stop talking about her business? It's really hard to get excited and creative when you're kind of surrounded by people who aren't having this conversation with you. So I always love to encourage people to have the conversations. Reach out to other people who are talking about business. If you want to be put in touch with somebody, like I'm going to put my email in here. You can always reach out to me. I know a lot of people locally because I've been doing this for a long time, and meeting new entrepreneurs is one of my favorite things. That's JenLiddy_@me.com. Did you say the presentation is available? Yes. So thank you for showing up for the live version. We appreciate it. But you also, because you've signed up for it, you get access to the PDF version, which is awesome because it has all the clickable links right in it, and you can just go back and remind yourself, oh yeah, she talked about that. And then there is a Blackboard version where it's just me. I'm not like using my hands and like talking like I talk now. It's just my voice, voicing it over, which is probably, you can press pause and go back, and so that's another option for you too. So you get 3 versions of this, and you guys, you know that you can share this with anybody, so we want as many eyes on this as possible. So if you have a friend or a colleague or a family member who could really use some of this information, send them the link so that they can sign up for it. I wonder if Megan can put that link in there. And I just want to make sure. So Jen says, we started a small mobile aircraft maintenance business that goes to the client, whereas before they would have to go to a public maintenance facility with other customers and all the employees that would be in the same space in their aircraft. So Jen, who's on the call tonight, she said she just started a new maintenance business that comes to you. That's awesome. So creative.